$3. That was all I had for my birthday cake. The young woman's whisper barely reached the bakery clerk, who looked down at the crumpled bills with genuine sorrow. Outside, snow fell softly on the quiet street.
I'm sorry,
While
I thought I had
inside,
enough.
Hannah Brooks sat motionless in her wheelchair, staring at the smallest cake in the
Made it
display
to the
case.
warmth.
$4.
Well, hello, you two.
It was her
I want
22nd
that
birthday, and she couldn't even afford a simple celebration. Then the bakery
Michael, look
door
at
burst
Hannah.
open,
She seems
bringing
so
winter
down.
air and laughter with it as a man and his daughter stepped inside, changing everything in ways none of them could have imagined. Hannah had once been a promising music student at the conservatory, with professors predicting a brilliant future as a concert pianist. Her fingers possessed a rare gift, translating emotion into melody, with an authenticity that could bring audiences to tears. She practiced 8 hours a day, lived and breathed music, and built her entire identity around the piano bench where she felt most alive. Then came the night that shattered everything. A drunk driver, a red light, the sound of crushing metal that still haunted her dreams. When she woke 3 weeks later in the hospital, the doctors delivered their verdict with clinical detachment, complete paralysis below the waist. She would never walk again. Her parents had died when she was 12, victims of another car accident that seemed to mock her current situation with cruel irony. Her grandmother had raised her after that, a woman whose strength came from surviving the Great Depression and who taught Hannah that dignity mattered more than money. "Hold your head high," she would say while brushing Hannah's hair before school. "Rich or poor, you're still my granddaughter, and that means something." But cancer took her grandmother just months after Hannah's accident, as if the universe had decided to strip away every support, every comfort, every reason to keep fighting. Now Hannah existed rather than lived in a tiny studio apartment where mice scratched inside the walls and the radiator clanged like a ghost dragging chains. The building housed society's forgotten people, elderly tenants on fixed incomes, disabled veterans, and single mothers working multiple jobs. Hannah fit right in with her disability checks that barely covered rent and the online piano students who frequently canceled lessons at the last minute. She taught through a laptop screen, demonstrating with her fingers on a cheap keyboard purchased from a pawn shop. Her grandmother's beautiful, upright piano had been sold to cover medical bills. Friends had vanished like morning mist after the accident. College classmates had tried it first, visiting with forced smiles and bouquets of flowers that wilted within days. But young people didn't know how to handle tragedy that couldn't be fixed with a party or an inspirational quote. They wanted to talk about internships and dating apps, not wheelchair accessibility and chronic pain. Hannah understood. At 22, she wouldn't have known how to be friends with herself either. Loneliness had become her most reliable companion, more dependable than any person had ever been. Birthdays had always been special when her grandmother was alive. Nothing elaborate, just homemade cake, off-key singing, and maybe a small gift wrapped in reused paper. But it had been an acknowledgement that she mattered, that her existence was worth celebrating. This year, she had decided to create her own celebration. For weeks, she had saved coins and crumpled bills, skipping meals and turning down the heat despite winter's bitter cold. $3 accumulated slowly inside an envelope marked with a hand-drawn heart. The day before, she had spotted the cake through the bakery window, the smallest one in the display case, perfect in its simplicity. $4. She had counted her money 7 times, as though desperation might somehow multiply it. Mathematics, however, remained unmoved by human need. Michael Carter stood 6 feet tall, his brown hair slightly disheveled from the wind outside. Despite being worth several $1 million from his cybersecurity company, he dressed like any other suburban father: jeans, a flannel shirt, and comfortable boots. He had learned long ago that money could not buy the things that truly mattered. It couldn't bring back his wife Rachel, who had died 4 years earlier from a brain aneurysm when Lily was only 2. It couldn't erase the image of that hospital room where he had said goodbye while holding his daughter as his world collapsed around him. Lily was his entire universe now, a bright, talkative 6-year-old with her mother's green eyes and infectious smile. She had inherited Rachel's compassion as well, always noticing when someone was sad and always trying to help. Today, Michael had brought her to the bakery because she had been chosen Student of the Week in kindergarten, and he had promised her any treat she wanted. The media called him the city's most eligible bachelor CEO, but he ignored the attention, focusing instead on board meetings and bedtime stories, quarterly reports, and Lily's artwork covering his office walls. He lived for small moments of joy that made the loneliness of single parenthood bearable. Lily rushed toward the display case, her winter coat unzipped despite Michael's repeated warnings about catching a cold. "Daddy, look at all the cakes. Can we get two? One for now and one for later?" She pressed her nose against the glass, leaving tiny circles of fog. Her teacher, Mrs. Anderson, had selected her as Student of the Week for helping a classmate who spoke no English, and Michael had promised she could choose anything she wanted. He watched her deliberate with the seriousness of a judge, weighing chocolate against vanilla, sprinkles against frosting roses. "That one," Lily declared, pointing decisively to a chocolate cake decorated with rainbow frosting. "And star candles, the sparkly ones." As the clerk began boxing the cake, Lily's attention shifted to the young woman maneuvering her wheelchair toward the door. It wasn't the wheelchair that caught her attention, her friend Noah used one too, but the sadness that seemed to radiate from Hannah like cold from ice. "Wait," Michael said softly, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed while remaining gentle enough not to startle. Hannah paused, one hand resting on the wheel, uncertain whether he was speaking to her. Their eyes met across the small bakery, and something shifted in the air between them, invisible but undeniable. The bakery suddenly felt warmer, or perhaps that was simply embarrassment coloring Hannah's cheeks as the handsome stranger approached her wheelchair. She wanted to escape, to avoid whatever pity was about to be offered, but the snowfall outside had intensified, and she had nowhere else to go anyway. Her apartment would still be cold and empty. The birthday cake would remain just another dream postponed. "I couldn't help overhearing," Michael said, crouching down to her eye level, a gesture that surprised her with its thoughtfulness. Most people remained standing, literally talking down to her. "Today's your birthday?" His voice contained no pity, only genuine curiosity, as though birthdays in bakeries during snowstorms were a perfectly ordinary topic of conversation. Hannah nodded, unable to trust her voice. Lily had abandoned the display case and now stood beside her father, studying Hannah with the uninhibited curiosity of childhood. "You're pretty," Lily announced. "Why are you in that chair? Did you hurt your legs? My friend Noah has a chair too, but his has race car stickers on it. Does yours have stickers underneath?" "Lily," Michael said gently, but Hannah found herself almost smiling at the child's honesty. It was refreshing after years of adults awkwardly dancing around her disability. "It's okay," Hannah said, her voice stronger than she expected. "I was in an accident. My legs don't work anymore, but the chair helps me get around. And no, I don't have stickers, though race cars do sound pretty cool." Lily considered this carefully. "You should get unicorn stickers. Or stars." "Daddy, she doesn't have stickers or a birthday cake. That's two problems." The child's logic was impossible to argue with, and she looked expectantly at her father, as if waiting for him to solve the situation. Michael stood slowly, his mind already made up, though he was searching for words that wouldn't sound condescending. "Would you let us buy your cake as a birthday gift from strangers who believe birthdays should always include cake?" Hannah's pride battled with her poverty, a familiar fight that poverty usually won through sheer exhaustion. "I couldn't. You don't even know me." The words emerged as a weak protest, lacking conviction because she wanted so desperately to say yes. "Then let's fix that," Michael said, extending his hand. "I'm Michael. This is Lily. Now we're not strangers anymore." And Lily's right. Birthdays without cake are against the rules, aren't they, Lily? "Absolutely against the rules," Lily confirmed solemnly. "It's probably illegal. We could get arrested if we let you leave without cake." She grabbed Hannah's hand with the confidence of a child who had never learned to fear rejection. "What kind do you want? The chocolate one is amazing, but Daddy says I always choose chocolate, so maybe you want something different." Hannah felt tears threatening to spill over. The kindness was overwhelming after so much time spent alone. "The small vanilla one," she managed. "The one with white frosting. That's the one you were looking at," the clerk said softly, having watched the entire exchange. "I'll box it up special. No charge for the birthday girl." She winked at Michael, who nodded gratefully and discreetly slipped a $20 bill into the tip jar. As the clerk prepared both cakes, Lily chatted nonstop to Hannah about kindergarten, her teacher Mrs. Anderson, the class hamster named Mr. Muffin, and how she was learning to read chapter books all by herself. Hannah found herself responding, drawn into the child's enthusiastic orbit. Michael watched them interact, noticing how naturally Hannah spoke to his daughter, and how Lily had claimed the young woman's attention with the determination she had inherited from her mother. "Would you like to sit with us?" Michael asked as the clerk handed over the boxed cakes. "We were planning a cake celebration right here. Lily insists cake tastes better when there are more people around. Apparently that's another one of her rules." Hannah hesitated. This felt like crossing a line from accepting necessary kindness into something far more personal and dangerous. She had learned to protect herself from Hope, knowing how badly it hurt when Hope disappointed her. But Lily was already moving chairs aside to make room for the wheelchair, chattering about which table offered the best view of the falling snow. "Just for a few minutes," Hannah agreed, telling herself she was doing it for the child's sake. Not because the man's warm brown eyes held a kindness she hadn't seen directed toward her in years. They settled at a small table by the window while the world outside grew softer and whiter. The clerk brought plates and forks, smiling knowingly as she arranged everything. Lily insisted they sing "Happy Birthday," her high, sweet voice leading while Michael's deep baritone harmonized beside her. Other customers joined in spontaneously, creating an impromptu chorus that made the walls Hannah had carefully built around herself begin to crack. When the song ended, Lily ordered her to make a wish. Hannah closed her eyes and tried to think of something small enough to be possible. Not to walk again. That was beyond even birthday magic. Not for her parents or grandmother to come back. Death was permanent. Maybe just for this moment to last a little longer. For the warmth of unexpected kindness to delay the cold return to reality. She blew out the single candle the clerk had added, and Lily cheered as though Hannah had accomplished something extraordinary. "What did you wish for?" Lily asked, then immediately covered her mouth. "Wait, you can't tell me or it won't come true. That's another rule." "So many rules," Hannah said, surprising herself by actually smiling. "How do you keep track of them all?" "I have a list," Lily replied seriously. "In my unicorn notebook. Daddy bought it for me after Mommy went to heaven because he said I could write letters to her in it." The casual mention of death changed the atmosphere. Hannah looked at Michael and suddenly noticed the shadows behind his eyes. She realized she wasn't the only person at the table carrying grief. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. 4 years ago," Michael replied simply. "Brain aneurysm. No warning, no goodbye, just gone." He cut another piece of cake for Lily, his movements practiced and automatic. "You learn to live around the absence, not through it, not over it, around it, like water finding its way around a stone." Hannah understood immediately. "My grandmother died 2 years ago, right after my accident. She was all I had left." The words came easier than expected, perhaps because Michael had offered his own pain first, turning the conversation into an exchange rather than a confession. "That's why you were alone on your birthday," Lily said matter-of-factly. "Because all your people went to heaven. That's sad. But now you have us. We can be your birthday people, right, Daddy?" Michael looked at Hannah, seeing her clearly for the first time. Not just a beautiful young woman in a wheelchair. Not just someone who needed help, but someone who had survived losses remarkably similar to his own. "Lily has apparently made a decision," he said, "and she's very persistent when she makes one. Just like Daddy," Lily added before returning her full attention to the cake. They ate in comfortable silence for a few moments while snow continued falling outside. Hannah felt something stir inside her chest that she had believed was long dead, fragile, dangerous. Hope was a luxury she could not afford. Not when disappointment waited around every corner, but sitting here with 2 strangers who didn't treat her with pity, who included her as naturally as breathing, she found herself wanting to believe in possibilities again. "What did you do before?" Michael asked. "You mentioned your accident. What was your life like before that?" "I studied music," Hannah said, then shook her head. "No, that's not quite right. I was music. Piano, specifically. I lived it, breathed it, built my entire world around it. When the accident took my legs, somehow it took that too. I still teach a little online, but it isn't the same. Playing used to feel like flying. Now it just feels like pressing keys." Michael heard the grief in her voice and recognized it instantly because it was the same tone he used whenever he spoke about Rachel. "Loss changes everything, even the things it doesn't directly touch. I used to love cooking elaborate meals for Rachel," he said. "Now I can barely make mac and cheese for Lily without remembering how Rachel used to steal bites while I was cooking." "But mac and cheese is good," Lily protested, "especially with extra cheese and those crunchy breadcrumb things on top." Your sophisticated palate has been noted, Michael said dryly, though his eyes remained fixed on Hannah. Do you still have a piano? A keyboard, Hannah admitted. I sold my grandmother's piano to pay medical bills. The keyboard works, but it's not the same. Lily's eyes widened. We have a piano, a big one that nobody plays. It just sits there being furniture. You could play ours. She turned excitedly toward her father. Can she, Daddy? Can Hannah come play our piano? Michael noticed Hannah's immediate retreat, the way she instinctively pulled back into herself. Lily, Hannah probably has things she needs to do. Actually, Hannah interrupted, surprising herself. I don't. It's my birthday, and I have absolutely nothing to do except go home to my empty apartment and eat cake alone. The honesty felt reckless but strangely liberating. But I couldn't impose. You've already done too much. It's not imposing if we're inviting you, Michael said gently. And Lily's right. The piano hasn't been played in years. It would be nice to hear music in the house again. Hannah wanted to say yes so badly it hurt, but wanting things had always led to disappointment. Hope was simply heartbreak delayed. I don't know if I can still play, she admitted. Not really play. My body works differently now. Everything is harder. Then try, Lily said with the simple wisdom only children possess. If it's hard, we'll help. That's what friends do. Friends. The word hung in the air like a question Hannah didn't know how to answer. She looked at Michael, searching his face for signs of pity or obligation. Instead, she found something that looked dangerously like genuine interest. Okay, she said before fear could change her mind. But I'll need help getting into the car. My chair doesn't fold easily. Good thing we have a van, Michael replied, already standing. Bought it last year when Lily's soccer team needed transportation. Plenty of room for your chair. He paused and studied her expression. Unless you're having second thoughts. No, Hannah said quickly, then laughed softly. No, I'm okay. Excellent, Lily declared. Adventure approved. The drive to Michael's house took them through neighborhoods that gradually shifted from the working-class streets Hannah knew so well to tree-lined avenues where elegant homes sat back from the road like quiet géants. Hannah felt increasingly out of place, her thrift store coat seeming shabby against the van's leather seats. But Lily maintained a constant stream of chatter from her car seat, pointing out early Christmas decorations, despite it only being November, and acting as though she were a tour guide. That's where Mrs. Henderson lives. She has 7 cats but pretends she only has 2 because there's a rule about how many pets you can have. And that blue house belongs to the Johnsons. They give out full-size candy bars on Halloween. Oh, and that's our house. Hannah's breath caught. The house was beautiful, but not in an ostentatious way. A 2-story colonial with white pillars and black shutters, the kind of home she had once imagined living in when the future still seemed full of possibilities. Michael pulled into the garage, and panic immediately rose inside her. What was she doing here? These people lived in a different world, a world where wheelchairs and thrift store clothing didn't belong. You okay? Michael asked softly, reading her expression with surprising accuracy. We can take you home if you'd rather. No, Hannah said quickly, then forced herself to relax. No, I'm fine. It's just, your house is beautiful. It's too big, Michael replied as he climbed out to help with her chair. Rachel wanted a large family. We bought it imagining 4 kids, maybe 5. Now it's just Lily and me rattling around inside all this space. The interior felt warm and lived, in despite its size. Children's artwork covered the refrigerator. Toys were scattered across the living room floor. Family photographs filled nearly every surface, most of them featuring a beautiful red-haired woman who could only be Rachel. Hannah expected jealousy but felt only sadness for the love Michael had lost. The piano sat in what was probably meant to be a formal living room but had long since become Lily's art studio. Easels displayed unfinished paintings, and plastic sheets covered the floor, splattered with bright colors. The piano itself was a Steinway Grand, its polished black surface gleaming beneath a light layer of dust. It needs tuning, Michael said apologetically. I've been meaning to call someone. Hannah wheeled herself toward the bench, her hands trembling as she lifted the fallboard. The keys felt cool beneath her fingers. Ivory and ebony waiting patiently for someone to bring them back to life. She played a simple scale and listened carefully. It needed tuning, but not badly. Her hand settled into a C major chord, then a progression. Suddenly she was playing, not performing, not practicing, simply playing. A simple melody at first, something her grandmother used to hum while cooking. Then variations emerged, growing more complex as her fingers remembered their purpose. Lily stood completely transfixed, her mouth hanging open in amazement. Michael leaned against the doorway, watching Hannah transform from a broken young woman in a wheelchair into something radiant and whole. The music filled the house, chasing away shadows that had lived there for 4 years and bringing warmth to rooms that had merely existed rather than lived. When Hannah finally stopped, her cheeks wet with tears she hadn't realized were falling, Lily exploded into applause. That was magic. Real magic. "Daddy, did you hear that?" It was like the house was singing. "I heard," Michael said quietly, his own eyes suspiciously bright. "That was extraordinary, Hannah. I haven't played like that since before." Hannah whispered in disbelief. "I didn't think I could anymore. I thought the music had died inside me. But here, in this room, with both of you listening, it came back." Lily climbed carefully onto the piano bench beside her. "Will you teach me? I want to make magic too." Hannah looked toward Michael questioningly. He nodded, smiling. "If you're willing. I've been meaning to find her a piano teacher, but somehow it never felt right. Maybe we were waiting for you." The words lingered in the air with a meaning neither of them was prepared to acknowledge. Hannah turned back to Lily. "I can teach you, but it takes practice every day, even when you don't feel like it." "I practice soccer every day," Lily said seriously, "and brushing my teeth, and being kind, though Daddy says that one should come naturally." They spent the rest of the afternoon at the piano. Hannah showed Lily basic finger positions, while Michael worked in the dining room with his laptop open, though his attention clearly remained fixed on the 2 figures seated at the piano. The sounds of Lily's laughter, Hannah's patient instructions, and the hesitant notes gradually becoming more confident created a sense of normalcy that made Michael's chest ache with longing for something he hadn't dared hope for. When evening arrived, Michael insisted Hannah stay for dinner. "Nothing fancy, just spaghetti." "With garlic bread?" Lily asked hopefully. "Would I dare serve spaghetti without garlic bread? There are probably laws against it." The meal was simple but perfect, the kind of family dinner Hannah had missed for years. Lily dominated the conversation with elaborate stories about school, while Michael occasionally offered corrections or clarification. Hannah found herself laughing more than she had in months, pulled naturally into their orbit. After dinner, Lily begged to show Hannah her room. It was an explosion of pink, purple, and unicorns. "This is Mr. Bubbles," Lily announced, presenting a well-loved, stuffed elephant. "And this is my mom." She pointed toward a framed photograph on her nightstand, showing Rachel laughing while holding a baby Lily. "She was beautiful," Hannah said honestly. "Daddy says I look like her, but I think I look like me," Lily replied philosophically. As the evening drew to a close, Michael drove Hannah home while Lily slept peacefully in the back seat. "Thank you," he said as they pulled up outside her apartment building. "For playing for us, for dinner, for making Lily laugh, for making the house feel alive again." "Thank you for the cake," Hannah replied, "for treating me like a person instead of a problem that needed solving." Michael looked at her for a long moment. "You're not a problem, Hannah." He paused, searching for the right words. "You're a gift we didn't know we needed." Back inside her apartment, the silence felt heavier than usual. Yet for the first time in years, it no longer felt permanent. 3 days passed before Michael called. Hannah had convinced herself the afternoon had been a beautiful fluke, a moment of kindness that would never be repeated. But his voice on the phone was warm and certain. "Lily hasn't stopped talking about you. She's been practicing finger exercises on the kitchen table. I think we need to make this official. Piano lessons twice a week. I'll pay your regular rate, of course." $20 an hour, Hannah said, embarrassed by how little it sounded. "That's ridiculous. Professional teachers charge at least 60. We'll do 75. "Michael, that's too much. It's fair. Wednesdays and Saturdays. I can pick you up." Hannah wanted to refuse. She wanted to protect herself from the hope building despite her efforts. But the thought of seeing them again, hearing that piano again, and being part of something larger than simple survival proved too tempting. "Okay," she said quietly, "Wednesdays and Saturdays." The first official lesson was a revelation. Lily proved to be a natural student, eager, focused, and blessed with an intuitive understanding of rhythm. Hannah found herself preparing lessons with unusual care, creating exercises that would challenge Lily without discouraging her. Michael worked from home that day, and the sound of his typing in the next room created a domestic backdrop that made Hannah's heart ache with longing. "You're an incredible teacher," Michael said afterward as Lily ran upstairs to retrieve something she wanted to show Hannah. "Patient, but demanding in exactly the right way. It's what she needs." "She's easy to teach," Hannah replied. "She wants to learn. That makes all the difference." "She wants to impress you," Michael corrected. "She's been telling everyone at school about her piano teacher who makes magic with music." Before Hannah could respond, Lily came rushing back carrying a stack of drawings. "I made these for you. This one is you playing piano, this one is all of us eating cake, and this one is what I think your apartment looks like, except with unicorns." Hannah studied the pictures, her throat tightening with emotion. In Lily's drawings, she wasn't defined by the wheelchair. She was simply part of the family scene, no different from Michael or Lily herself. The weeks passed in a comforting rhythm of lessons and lingering conversations. Michael sometimes joined them at the piano, his deep voice harmonizing with Lily's bright soprano while Hannah played. Those moments felt dangerous in their perfection, like glimpses of a life she wasn't supposed to have. One Saturday, in early December, Hannah arrived to find the house transformed into a Christmas wonderland. A massive tree dominated the living room, and Lily was practically vibrating with excitement. "We're decorating. You have to help. It's tradition." "I don't think your traditions include me," Hannah said gently. "They do now," Lily replied firmly. "Right, Daddy?" Michael appeared carrying several boxes of ornaments, his smile warm and inviting. "Right. Hannah is part of our traditions now." They spent the afternoon decorating. Michael lifted Lily to reach the higher branches, while Hannah sorted ornaments and listened as they shared stories connected to each decoration. When they reached a delicate glass angel, Lily grew quiet. This was Mommy's favorite. She always put it on top. Michael's expression tightened briefly, but he picked up the angel carefully. "Would you like to do it this year, sweetheart?" Lily shook her head. "You do it." But Hannah should watch. As Michael lifted Lily high enough to place the angel at the top of the tree, Hannah felt the weight of being included in such an intimate family moment. She was witnessing private grief and private love, yet somehow Lily insisted she belonged there. "Perfect," Lily declared proudly. Then she turned toward Hannah. "Next year you can help put it up." Next year, the casual assumption that Hannah would still be part of their lives made her chest tighten with equal parts hope and fear. That evening, after Lily had fallen asleep on the couch, Michael sat beside Hannah on the piano bench. "She's attached to you," he said quietly. "I'm attached to her too," Hannah admitted. Then, after a pause, "To both of you." Michael turned toward her fully. "I need to tell you something." Hannah immediately tensed. "I looked up your blog," he continued. "I read it." Her stomach dropped. The blog contained her most private thoughts, her grief, her anger, her loneliness, and the darkest moments after her accident. "There was a post from 3 years ago," Michael continued, "about saving a little girl at a crosswalk. Red rain boots with ducks on them, curly brown hair, a unicorn backpack." Hannah's breath caught as the memory resurfaced. A rainy afternoon before her accident. A child chasing a ball into traffic. Hannah grabbing her just before a speeding car could hit her. "Hannah," Michael said softly. "That was Lily." The world seemed to tilt. "What?" "I was sitting in a coffee shop across the street. I saw you save her, but by the time I got outside, you were gone. I spent weeks trying to find you." His voice grew thick with emotion. "You saved my daughter, and then, years later, you somehow came back into our lives when we needed saving too." Tears filled Hannah's eyes as she struggled to process the revelation. "It's fate," Michael whispered. "It has to be." He leaned closer, and Hannah knew he was about to kiss her. She wanted it more than she had wanted anything since the accident, but fear won. "I can't," she whispered. "Michael, I can't be somebody's project. I can't be the poor disabled girl you rescue because you feel grateful." "Stop." His voice sharpened. "Is that honestly what you think?" "Isn't it?" Hannah asked. Michael shook his head. "You're brilliant. You're talented. You make my daughter laugh. You brought music back into our house. When I look at you, I don't see a wheelchair. I see a woman who survived losses that would have destroyed most people and still manages to create beauty." He paused, his voice softening. "I see someone I'm falling for despite every voice in my head telling me it's too soon and too complicated." Hannah couldn't speak. "I know it's only been 2 months," Michael continued. "I know there are 1,000 reasons this doesn't make sense, but Hannah, You fit into our lives like you were always meant to be there." "I'm scared," she whispered. "I've lost everyone I've ever loved. If I let myself love you and Lily, and then I lose you too." "Then we go slowly," Michael said gently. "No pressure, no expectations. We just see where it leads." Hannah nodded, and Michael smiled before leaning forward and pressing a soft kiss to her forehead. Then he helped her back into her wheelchair. The following week, Lily suffered a meltdown after a classmate made cruel comments about her not having a mother. Hannah held her while she cried, understanding the pain in a way few others could. "Do you forget your mom sometimes?" Lily asked through tears. "All the time," Hannah admitted. "Sometimes I still reach for my phone because I want to call my grandmother. Does it ever stop hurting?" "It changes," Hannah said carefully. "It becomes softer, like a bruise healing." That evening, after Lily had fallen asleep, Michael pulled Hannah gently into his arms. "Thank you. You knew exactly what she needed to hear." "She's easy to love," Hannah said simply. "Yes," Michael replied, looking directly into her eyes. "She is." Their first real kiss happened 2 weeks later after Lily's school Christmas concert. Hannah attended, sitting in the accessible section while Michael stood nearby. Lily waved enthusiastically from the stage, proudly introducing Hannah to her classmates as "my piano teacher." Afterward, in the parking lot while snow drifted gently around them, Michael cupped Hannah's face in his hands and kissed her as though she were precious, as though she were whole, as though the wheelchair didn't exist. "I love you," he whispered against her lips. "I know it's too soon and too complicated, but Hannah, I love you." "I love you too," she whispered back, terrified and exhilarated at the same time. They were careful around Lily, not wanting to confuse her. But Lily, with a child's remarkable intuition, figured it out almost immediately. "Are you and Hannah dating?" she asked Michael one morning. "Would that be okay with you?" Michael asked cautiously. Lily considered the question seriously. "Will she move in with us?" "Not right now. We're taking things slowly. But eventually, maybe, if that's what we all want." Lily nodded decisively. "Good. I already picked out paint colors for her room." Christmas arrived wrapped in snow and uncertainty. Hannah had never expected to spend it anywhere except alone in her apartment, eating discounted holiday cookies and pretending not to notice the silence. Instead, she woke Christmas morning to 17 missed text messages from Lily, all variations of "Are you awake yet?" and "Santa came and Daddy says I have to wait but this is an emergency." By 9 o'clock, Michael was at her apartment with coffee and a scarf. Lily had apparently selected specifically because it matches Hannah's eyes. "You know she's been planning your Christmas for weeks," Michael said as he helped load her wheelchair into the van. "I'm honestly not sure either of us had any say in it." Hannah smiled despite herself. "That sounds about right." The Carter house looked like something from a holiday movie. Lights twinkled along the roofline. The smell of cinnamon drifted from the kitchen. Christmas music played softly from hidden speakers. Lily launched herself into Hannah's arms the moment she came through the door. "You're here. Now Christmas can start." Hannah laughed as Lily dragged her toward the tree. Piles of presents surrounded it, and to Hannah's horror, several had her name on them. "Michael," she protested. "I told you not to get me anything." "I didn't," Michael replied innocently. "Those are from Lily." Lily grinned. "And maybe Daddy helped a little." The gifts were thoughtful in ways that made Hannah's chest ache. Music books she had mentioned wanting months ago. A beautiful sweater. A framed photograph of the three of them at Lily's school concert. And finally, one large box positioned near the back of the tree. "Open that one last," Lily instructed, practically bouncing with anticipation. Hannah carefully tore away the wrapping paper and froze. Inside was a professional digital piano, not a toy, not a beginner instrument. A beautiful, high-end keyboard with weighted keys and a matching bench. "Michael," her voice broke. "You can't." "I can," Michael said softly. "And I did." Tears filled her eyes. "It's too much." "No," he replied. "Too much was watching you try to teach music on that broken pawnshop keyboard. This is what you deserve." Hannah covered her face and cried. Not because of the piano, not really. Because for the first time in years, someone had seen what she had lost and cared enough to help restore a piece of it. Lily wrapped her arms around Hannah's shoulders. "Do you like it?" "I love it," Hannah whispered. "Thank you. You're welcome. Also, now you can practice whenever you want, and maybe someday we can play duets." The rest of the day passed in a blur of laughter, food, and family traditions. For the first time since her accident, Hannah didn't feel like an outsider looking in at other people's happiness. She felt like she belonged. By February, she was spending more time at the Carter house than in her own apartment. Not because anyone had asked her to. It just happened naturally. Lessons turned into dinners. Dinners turned into movie nights. Movie nights turned into mornings when she woke up on the guest room sofa because a snowstorm had made driving impossible. Lily thrived under the new arrangement. Her grades improved. Her piano playing improved. Even her teachers commented on how much happier she seemed. One afternoon, Mrs. Anderson pulled Michael aside after school. "Whatever changed at home," she said with a smile, "keep doing it." Michael glanced toward Hannah, who was helping Lily into the van. "I think I know what changed." But not everyone approved. Michael's mother certainly didn't. Elaine Carter had tolerated Hannah politely for months before finally expressing her true feelings over dinner. "She seems lovely," Elaine said while cutting her chicken with surgical precision. "But Michael, don't you think you're taking on an awful lot of responsibility?" The implication hung in the air. Hannah felt it immediately. Michael did too. "Responsibility?" he repeated. "A disabled woman," Elaine clarified. "A relationship like that comes with complications." The room went silent. Hannah stared down at her plate, humiliation burning her cheeks. Before she could respond, Michael set down his fork. "Mom, Hannah is not a burden. She's not a responsibility. She's the woman I love." Elaine looked startled. "I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did." Michael's voice remained calm, which somehow made it more powerful. "And if you can't treat her with respect, you won't be invited back." Hannah had never seen anyone defend her so fiercely, especially not against family. Later that night, after Lily was asleep, she sat beside Michael on the back porch. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did." He took her hand. "Nobody gets to make you feel small, not anymore." The spring brought new challenges. Hannah's apartment building was sold to a developer who planned to convert it into luxury condos. Residents received eviction notices with 60 days to vacate. Panic spread through the building. Many tenants had nowhere else to go. Hannah stared at the notice for hours, wondering how much more instability one life could contain. When she finally told Michael, his reaction was immediate. "Move in with us." "Michael, I'm serious. We've only been dating 6 months. And," Hannah laughed despite her anxiety, "and normal people don't move in together after 6 months. Good thing neither of us has ever been accused of being normal." But Hannah hesitated. Not because she didn't want to, because she wanted it too much. "What if it changes things?" she asked quietly. "What if Lily decides she doesn't want me there? What if we discover we drive each other crazy?" Michael cupped her face gently. "Then we deal with it together. That's what families do." Families. The word no longer sounded impossible. 2 weeks later, Hannah officially moved into the Carter house. Lily had already decorated the guest room, despite being told repeatedly that Hannah should choose her own colors. Purple curtains, unicorn pillows, glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. "I might have gotten a little excited," Lily admitted. "A little?" Hannah laughed. "Maybe medium excited." The adjustment period lasted exactly 3 days. By the 4th day, it felt as though Hannah had always lived there. She knew where Michael kept the coffee filters. She knew which stuffed animals Lily needed for bedtime. She knew how to navigate the kitchen without asking questions. One evening, she paused in the doorway of the living room and watched Michael helping Lily with homework, while the dog they had recently adopted slept at their feet. The sight struck her with almost painful force. This ordinary moment, this was everything she had thought she had lost forever. "What are you thinking about?" Michael asked, noticing her expression. Hannah smiled through tears. "How strange life is. Good strange or bad strange? Good." She wheeled herself closer and rested her head against his shoulder. "I spent years believing my story was over." Michael kissed the top of her head. "Turns out it was just starting." In June, exactly 1 year after that snowy birthday in the bakery, Michael proposed. Not at an expensive restaurant, not during some elaborate event. He proposed in the music room while Lily practiced scales badly and enthusiastically on the piano. Michael knelt beside Hannah's wheelchair, holding a ring that had belonged to his grandmother. "You taught me something," he said, his voice shaking slightly. "You taught me that broken things aren't broken forever. Sometimes they just need love, and patience, and people who refuse to give up on them." Hannah was already crying. "Michael, will you marry me?" Before Hannah could answer, Lily jumped off the piano bench. "Say yes. Please say yes. I already made invitations." Hannah laughed so hard she nearly forgot to answer. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, of course I'll marry you." Lily screamed loud enough to alarm the neighbors. The wedding took place that autumn beneath a canopy of golden leaves. Hannah rolled down the aisle in a wheelchair decorated with white roses. Michael cried openly. Lily served as flower girl, maid of honor, and self-appointed wedding coordinator. During the reception, Hannah played piano for the first time in public since her accident. The room fell silent as music filled the air. When she finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the crowd. Later that evening, as she danced with Michael in her wheelchair while Lily spun circles around them, Hannah thought about the bakery. $3. A birthday cake she couldn't afford. The moment everything changed. Sometimes miracles don't arrive as lightning bolts or winning lottery tickets. Sometimes they arrive as a little girl with too many rules, and a father who refuses to let strangers spend their birthdays alone. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, those strangers become your family. Years later, Hannah would still keep the birthday candle from that tiny vanilla cake tucked safely inside her jewelry box. Not because it was valuable, but because it reminded her that hope can return when you least expect it, carried into your life by people who choose kindness for no reason other than the simple belief that everyone deserves to be loved. And in the end, that belief changed everything.